everybody, it's Bridget. Welcome to the Talking Tarot webinar. Now, if you joined us about an hour ago, you would have realized that we had some technical difficulties and things weren't working exactly as we wanted them to. So for the last hour, Kim and I have been racing around trying to make everything work. And I'm so happy that things have all come together now. And so even though it means that we've had to reschedule to now, like an hour later, at least we're here and we've made it. So I just want to say a massive thank you for your patience and your perseverance. We were completely bummed when it wasn't working. Trust me, we were like, oh no. But anyway, we are here now and that's what matters the most. So I really want to welcome you in. Come in, make yourself comfy, and let's make sure that our chat's working just fine. So come in and say hello, tell me where you're calling in from. That would be wonderful. So we can just make sure that everybody is in the room. So make sure you say hello and where you're calling in from. Wonderful. Okay, it looks like we've got a few more people joining in the room. So if you're just joining us, please come in and say hello. Oh, good. Okay, thank goodness. It was another one of those stress moments where I thought, oh, I hope it's working just fine. It is. That's good. Wonderful. So we've got Boston, UK, and goodness me, it is midnight. I'm so sorry to keep you up so late, but I so appreciate you being here very much. And Athens, I know that's also going to be quite late there. Texas, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Seattle, in Washington, Southern California. Nice. So people from all around the world, which is just wonderful. Yay, I know. I'm so glad that it is finally working this time around. So I'm just going to wait until we've got a few more people joining in the room because, again, as I said earlier, we ended up having to reschedule and I'm so sorry that it ended up that way. I think it was Danny who said, I demand a refund. At least that gave us a bit of a laugh while we were madly rushing around and getting everything to work as well. Oh, Sigrun's here from Norway, midnight. Oh, again, just amazing. Thank you so much for being here and, bringing your energy and, creating space for this special Talking Tarot webinar. Let's just see. Okay, wonderful. Well, let me give you a little bit of an overview of how today will work. Now, I created this webinar because I simply wanted to have an opportunity to say hello and also, really just to reach out and say thank you for all of your support for Biddy Tarot and to give you an opportunity to ask me any question you have about the tarot. I know that, as you're learning how to read the tarot cards or you're integrating it into your everyday life, sometimes some questions come up and you're like, oh, what do I do with this? So that's really the opportunity today to ask me any question and I can answer those questions. Now, what this is not a forum for me giving readings. So please don't ask what's going to happen to my career because I'll be like, ignore. But you can, of course, ask any question about how do you actually go about reading the cards or even, things like how do you start setting up a professional tarot reading business and so on. So to ask your questions, you will find in the text chat. Actually, let me just make sure I can I'll show you where it is in the text chat. 1 second. Okie dokes. So there we are. Yep, we're in the right place. Talking Tarot, that's correct. So if you want to ask a question, it looks like you've already found the text chat, which is great. And what I will ask during the session today, so I can keep a track of the questions that are coming through. When we are in question mode, please only use the text chat for asking questions. And Kim's going to help me out too by just marking which ones are the questions. So yeah, I will do my very best to answer as many questions as I can. But if there's, you know, a question that's on your mind and maybe I can't get to it, don't worry, keep asking it and I'll make sure that I can get there. Now, also at the end of today's webinar, I'll be showing you how you can continue your practice as a tarot reader and learn how to master the tarot card meanings. So make sure you stick around to the end of the webinar because I'll share some details about how you can become an even better tarot reader. And you'll also want to stick around because I've got something very special for you at the end, and it's only going to be available if you stick around to the end of today's webinar. All right, well, I am going to open the floor for questions. So if you've got a burning question on your mind about how to read tarot, now's the time. So feel free to please ask in the text chat. And actually, so that we don't have any more technical disasters, I'm just going to run around and put the power cord in to make sure we don't run out of battery in the middle. That would be terrible while you sort out with your asking questions. So 1 second. Whoop. And maybe one question not to ask is, how do you run a webinar on Google Hangouts? Oh dear, I just get so frustrated when things don't work perfectly because I like things to be, you know, really, really good. But anyway, here we are. Great. Okay, so Kat asks, what do you do when you're doing a reading and it says to you that something's completely wrong from a traditional meaning of the card? And what if you are wrong? Oh, awesome question. And there's kind of a few different layers to this. So, you know, we go to our books, we read, okay, you know, the High Priestess talks about is about intuition and, you know, the subconscious mind and so on. And then we might be in a reading and we start to see something completely different in the card, or, you know, our intuition is speaking to us in a very different way. And we think, oh, actually, you know what, this isn't about intuition. This is about fertility cycles, or, you know, like something completely different comes into your mind and you're thinking, oh, but that's not what it said in the book. You know, am I completely wrong here? I think it's actually a really great thing when you feel a really strong calling around what a card means for you and for that reading, then go with it, even if it's different to say what the book said that tarot card might have meant. You ask, like, you know, does it mean you're wrong? Well, if you feel like there's something, you know, when you have a really strong intuitive feel about something, and typically, you know, that's the thing that matters the most. It's not so much that it'll be wrong. That said, if you're still in that process of learning to trust your intuition, put it out there, say, look, this is a possibility. This is what I'm sensing and feeling in this card. I don't know if it's going to be like bang on, but let's just see. I'm going to put it out there. And then if you can, you know, if it's a reading for yourself, perfect. Come back to it in a couple of weeks and go, well, how did things actually manifest? And what does that tell me about the tarot card that I had this intuitive feel about? And what else can I learn as a result of that? If it's with a client and it's someone that, you know, you trust, or even just ask them for feedback in a month's time. How did things work out for you? And, you know that High Priestess card, how did that actually work out for you? So that way you can start to build up more confidence in your intuitive way or intuitive methods of reading the tarot cards. So I hope that helps, Kat. Just remember, like, my thing is there is no wrong in the tarot. Sometimes, like, we might take, like, there's energy in the tarot cards. The energy itself is the thing that stays constant, but sometimes it's our interpretation of that energy that can be sometimes a bit misguided. But you will continue to improve and continue to learn how to hear the right intuitive messages if you keep doing that feedback process. So after you've done a reading, make sure that you're getting that feedback about, well, how does this card really transpire? And that will tell you a lot more. And in fact, by the way, if you've got questions, please ask, because I will just keep rambling on this particular question until we get a new one. So I actually had I was interviewing Tony Lewis, who wrote Tarot Plain and Simple, and his whole book on the tarot card meanings was written from, I think it was around 7 years of reading tarot for other people and just seeing, well, how does this card actually play out? And sometimes it was different to what you might read in other books. So I thought that was a really interesting process for how he came about his card meanings. All right, we've got a question from Doris, and she asks, how do you know when you're clear enough to start charging? And I'm going to read that as like, how do you know that you're good enough, right? So I think there are a few things to look out for, and to know when it's time that it's good to start charging. So number one is that you've got practice, and when I say practice, I mean practice with people from all walks of life, with all different sorts of questions, and you want to be in a position where you've been asked some really tricky questions, and you've been challenged on your tarot reading. You've had difficult situations that you've had to deal with. And so the perfect place is the Biddy Tarot Network, because you get to do free tarot readings. So you're not charging for them. It's a learning environment, but you get to do those readings for strangers. And trust me, we get like so many different kinds of questions and different kinds of clients from all over the world. It just really builds up your skills and experience level. So I wonder, Kim, maybe you could drop in the link to where you can sign up. Oh, she's way ahead of me. Oh, I love Kim. So yeah, Biddy Tarot Network is a great place to get all of that really good experience. And you might set a limit for yourself. You might say, well, I'm going to do 50 free readings because I feel like that's going to be a good sort of opportunity to get that experience, and then you start moving on from there. So skills, building up skills, exposing yourself to different types of people and tarot readings and questions and so on. But also, you want to make sure that you've got a wide range of tarot spreads. You're comfortable doing, say, a 3-card spread or a 10-card or a 15-card spread. So that you've got a good range of skills, and you're comfortable doing a 5 or 10 minute reading versus a 1 hour reading. So again, that broad range of skills and experience, which you will get through the Biddy Tarot Network. And finally, I think you start to hear feedback. You start to hear people say to you, you know what, you should be charging, or like, I want to get a reading with you. How much will it cost? So you actually start to get signs from the people that you're reading for that they're valuing what you're doing, and they would be happy to pay for what you have to offer. I feel like that's a pretty strong sign that it's, that you're ready to go. And it's also the universe's way of saying to you, you know what, it's time, just do it. Take that leap of faith. So there you go, Doris. I hope that helps. You might be in that position where you're like, oh, maybe it's like right now. So if that's the case, awesome. I wish you everything will go well, as I'm sure it will. Or if you kind of like, I'm not quite there yet, then I'd love for you to join the Biddy Tarot Network if you haven't done so already. Okie doke. So we've got Ali. Ali says, what does it mean when you get 2 or 3 of the same number? Excellent. So this is like in a tarot reading, right? So let's say you get, like, you've got a 10-card reading, but 3 of the cards are like 8s. 8 of Cups, 8 of Swords, and 8 of Wands. So what I like to do is I like to read each card, because each of them have their own unique message. But when I'm looking at the totality of the reading, when I'm doing that kind of, the storytelling across the whole reading and looking for key themes, I will notice that there are 3 8s there, and that's interesting information, because 8s are about mastery, for example. And so I'll think about, well, what role does mastery have in this overall situation? Maybe you've got like 3 lots of 2s in the reading. Well, what role is duality having in this overall situation? What role are like relationships and balance having in the overall situation? So Ellie, it's great that you're seeing those numerical patterns. because they will tell you a story. And typically it's a story about the overall energy and the overall situation that's going on in the reading. So what helps is just to know your basic numerology, know from like what's 1 mean all the way through to 9, and you're pretty well covered. And yeah, I'm just thinking, I think I've got a post coming out about that very soon, well, in January actually, about how we can use basic numerology in our tarot readings just to really accelerate our our way of reading the cards. All right. Wow, this is fun. I'm so glad that everybody's been able to make it as well. So I know we've got a few people who've just been joining us in the last sort of 5-10 minutes. I'm so grateful that you could make it to the rescheduled webinar. And of course, there's going to be a bunch of people who unfortunately couldn't make the live one given it's rescheduled, but we've got the replay coming, so that's a good thing. Okay, Nikki's asking, how do you tell the difference if the court card is just energy around the situation, someone else, or if it represents yourself in the reading? Good question. So if you're new to tarot, here's what I suggest. I suggest choose one of them and set the intention that if you see a court card, it's going to mean someone else. Or if you see a court card in a reading, it's going to represent the person asking the question. So that's one way of just keeping it really simple. And so there's no confusion. You really just put it out to the universe, you know what, this is how I'm going to read the cards. And then you'll find that those cards come up in those, it'll come up the way that it's meant to come up, right? Now, if you're like, yeah, I've got that, I feel pretty comfortable with that, I want to layer it up, I want to get a little bit more experienced and, you know, be a bit more flexible. So you can then start to look at, you know, what's going on in the reading. So I typically, like, my default is that a court card will represent the person who's asking the question, unless the court card shows up in a position that is specifically related to someone else. So let's say in the Celtic Cross, you have the external influences. Well, if a court card shows up there, I see that as someone else and not the client. But pretty much in any other position, it's likely to be the client. Every now and then, I might get the intuitive feeling that it's actually somebody else. But more often than not, I operate with court cards being the actual querent. And I often see it as the personality that's being expressed or coming forth in a particular situation. And so it doesn't necessarily, you know, like a queen doesn't necessarily mean like a woman who's 35 or, you know, that kind of stuff. It can be, the queens might be more about maturity level. It might be more about sort of, you know, like the Queen of Cups, about being able to maturely express one's emotions. So in this current situation, you're expressing your emotions in a more mature way, and so on. So yes, that's a bit of a roundabout way. So I hope that helps. So number one, if you're really new to tarot and you want to keep things simple, choose one and set the intention. If you're happy to be a bit more in flow and flexible, look at, you know, what else is going on in the reading? What position is it being drawn in? What's your intuitive sense about those cards as well? Great. All right. So, and Kim, thank you so much. You're doing a great job with marking all of the questions. This is making it super easy. All right. So Kat is asking, when you do a reading, do you do a 3-card spread or a full Celtic Cross? And how do you pick the spread? Great question. So I think I might be saying great question to everything. Well, everything is a great question. So I will just, I really just go with the flow. Okay. So Celtic Cross is one of those spreads that you, like when you're starting to read tarot, you think, oh, this is the spread I have to use. You know, if I'm going to be a good tarot reader, I have to know the Celtic Cross. But here's the thing with the Celtic Cross, it's not suitable for every reading. If you're doing a short reading, it's not suitable. If you are doing more of a predictive style of reading, what's going to happen in this situation, it's not great fit. But it is great for understanding like the energies surrounding a situation in the here and now, so that you can start to map out what might be happening in the future. So I will only choose a Celtic cross if it fits the situation and the question at hand. 3 cards readings I love because they're super simple and they help you just get straight to the point of the question. But basically, if I'm choosing a spread, I'm thinking about what's the question being asked here and what would be the best way of answering that question. And often I'll go into creating a custom spread that's based on like lots of mini questions that will help answer that overall question. So that's how I like to work. Start with a question first and then think about what's the right spread here, instead of starting with the spread and trying to fit it into the question. A bit of a like a square peg in a round hole or what have you. And actually, speaking of the Celtic cross, I have just finished recording one of my upcoming podcasts on the Celtic cross. And I think it's going to be, pretty sure it's going to be episode 14, which will be out in about February of 2016. But just so that you know, there's lots and lots of goodness coming through the Biddy Tarot podcast, which launches on the 12th of January 2016. So make sure you watch out for that one. All right. Let me make sure I've got everything good. Okay, Sigrid says, we often talk about diving deep in the cards, but how to do a proper deep reading? When are the cards interpreted well enough? When to stop? I often feel that suddenly my words lose their meaning, and I hope you understand the question. Of course I understand. So here's the thing, like, I used to do really big readings. I used to do them with 15 cards and like that was like the big in-depth reading. Wasn't it amazing? And it would take me, you know, over an hour to do. It would be like 2,000, if not 3,000 words. But I would sort of find myself getting a bit lost in it. I'd get about halfway and go, oh, next card, next card. And I actually just didn't, it wasn't maintaining the energy around that. And so I actually started switching to doing just 2 card readings, so quick answer readings. And I love doing them now. It's great because I can get really laser focused on the question without it being just like, here's the answer, done, you know, finished reading. I can actually really start to dig in deep into those 2 cards and really explore what it means for the client and their question. And it's only with 2 cards. I haven't needed to go with lots and lots of different cards. And I'm finding that that provides a lot of helpful information for clients. And it's good for me because it's a short commitment. I can get in there, I can do it. I really enjoy it. I don't get tired. And then I'm out and it helps the client. So I think you really have to go with your energy. And if you hit a point in your reading where you're like, I think I said what I need to say. There's only so many ways you can skin a cat. You know, there's only so many ways you can explain the different angles on things. So I think you have to trust your judgment. And, you know, when you talk about, say, a deep reading, remember you can do a deep reading with 1 card and you can go super deep with that card. You could get right into the symbolism of the card. You could get into the stories, the archetypes of that card. You could get into how do you then embody the energy of that tarot card. You could even start creating special activities for the client out of that 1 card. Like, don't underestimate, you know, the power of keeping it really simple with just a few cards. So I hope that helps, Sigrun. And I'm so excited to see you here. Well, you know, see you here. And for others, Sigrun's been a wonderful part of the Biddy Tarot community and has, you know, experienced our courses and programs, and is always an active member. So it's very much appreciated. And, you know, again, like, would so appreciate everybody that's here because I know you are all very active community members and I really do appreciate it. Okie doke. So, Susan. I was told that you can do yes or no questions with 3 piles. It doesn't seem reasonable. That's it. Okay, so I've never heard of that, but that doesn't mean it's not legitimate or it's not usable, right? So yeah, I wonder how that might work. Maybe, I wonder if it's like yes no, and maybe in the middle. And then you turn each card over to see what looks more favorable. I'm not sure. But here's the deal. Like when we're talking yes, no questions, I have to be honest, I'm not a fan of doing yes, no questions. The reason why I love tarot is because it really just unpacks everything. It just gets right into the sort of nitty gritty of what's going on. And it doesn't give you just a yes or no answer. I think it just gives you so much more depth than a simple yes or no. And the other thing that I really like about not using yes no questions is that it relates to your free will. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you ask like, will I buy a house? And the tarot answers yes. I don't know how helpful that is. I'd be more interested in about like, well, what do I need to do in order to buy the right house, like the house? And is it the right house? And, what actions can I take and so on? And, is there anything holding me back from finding the right house? I prefer to know like around, more of the details. That said, I do know there are readers who enjoy doing yes no spreads, and that's perfectly okay. And obviously there are clients who just want to know the yes or the no. But I kind of feel that we have a little bit more of a role in our own destiny and shaping our own destiny. And even though something might be favorable, it's not 100% definite that this will happen. You still need to take certain actions to get there. So that's why I don't feel quite aligned with yes no questions. And that's why I can't really give like great advice about how to do them, because it's not really my thing. But please don't let that put you off, okay? Good. All right, wonderful. So Diane Biddy, that's cute. Diane says, what spread would you recommend if the client has no question in mind and just wants information? Oh man, I used to hate these style of like readings, right? It's just like, just a general reading, please, whatever it might be. So you could start really broad. Okay, well, let me just say how I deal with it now. What I like to do is grab the cards, we do a bit of a shuffle, we'll like fan them out, and then the client will pick out maybe 3 cards. And it's a no spread. So there are not defined positions. I'm just curious to see what will happen. Okay, let's see. Lucky I've got cards, isn't it? All right, so let's just say they've just gone, can I have a general reading? And let's say we've fanned them out, we're choosing our 3 cards. And, oh, this is interesting, isn't it? It's always interesting. So can you see this? Let's say we've got the reverse Queen of Wands, the reverse Lovers, and the reversed Empress. Well, just looking at these cards instantly makes me think about like self-care and, self-nurturing and making decisions that are in your best interest. And perhaps maybe you're not making the right decisions that, really, that they're not nurturing yourself, that you're putting yourself last. And this is being, that idea of not making the best decisions that are in your highest good. And this also is kind of like it's actually wearing thin on your self-confidence and assertiveness and so on. So let's say this person had come in for a reading and said, I just want a general reading, and we get these cards and it's like, well, I really feel like there's some issues here around self-worth. Does that resonate with you? And they might go, oh yeah, well, actually, yes. And then you're like, great, well, should we dive a little bit deeper? So I kind of use those initial cards as a way of zooming in to what might be most important. And of course, there's a checking in process at the same time. And then, is this something we want to go deeper? And maybe they're like, no, I don't feel like it. Let's do something else. And then you might just draw like, oh, okay, another couple of cards. Oh, well, I wonder if there's something to do here with relationship not quite working out. It's a solid relationship, but you've had some troubles lately and maybe some harsh words have been spoken. And, that's led you to feel a little bit, unsettled. There you go. So that's how you could actually start doing a bit more of a general reading. Just draw the cards, let the cards guide you, and they will start to show you down the little roads where you can go. All right, I hope that helps. Okay, I'm just checking. Oh, wow. Okay, so at this time, we don't have any further questions, but please, we've got all this time together. So please feel free to use the text chat to ask a question. Kim's being super helpful for me, and she's marking when it is a question. So all you need to do is just type it in, and Kim will be looking to make sure she's got them all. And I see that Kat's just asked a question. Do you ever get physically tired after a reading? Yes, yes, I do. And this is so important, okay? So as tarot readers, many of us are like more sensitive to energy and shifts in energy and other people's energy, all that kind of stuff. We're more sensitive to it than other people. So what that means is that when we are connecting in with other people's energy and feeling it, it can really drain on our energy. And so it's so important that you are helping yourself first. It's kind of like the oxygen mask in the plane, right? So put on your oxygen mask before helping others. So if you're starting to feel a bit tired after a reading, take care of yourself, take a break, even if it's just 5 minutes to get up, maybe even just go outside, stand on some grass if you can, ground yourself, really draw that energy into the ground and earth yourself. Or even have a shower. It's always nice having a bit of a shower, or just like a wiggle around, or even a dance, whatever makes you feel good. Try and have some breaks in between readings. And also make sure that you're having breaks, like longer breaks, just take a week off reading tarot. Or if you've got personal issues that you need to attend to, take a few months off tarot. There's nothing worse than trying to do a tarot reading when you are drained or exhausted, because you're not going to give your best to that reading, and you're going to make it even harder on yourself on that more spiritual, energetic level as well. So please, please, please take care of yourself. And yes, I get to feel tired after some readings, especially long ones. And that's why, I've had to be really firm with my boundaries about how many readings I'll do in a week, and, how quickly I'll do a reading. So sometimes it might even be 7 days before I can get to a client reading. And it's simply because I've got to manage my energy, and I know I'm not going to be great if I try and squish a client reading into a day when, I've already got heaps and heaps of things going on. Anyway, so yes, take care of yourself, please. I wonder if I can go, yep, answered. No, I don't know. Anyway, so Georgette is saying, is it all right not to use reverse cards in a reading? Absolutely, yes. Do you know there's readers who have 30 years experience who have made a very conscious choice not to use reverse cards in a reading? So if that feels like you, then go for it. You don't have to. You're not missing out. Well, okay, no, wait, rewind. I feel like you're missing out. That's only because I'm a big advocate for reverse cards, but I fully respect that everybody has a different style with reading. So please don't feel bad if you're not using reverse cards. That said, I will sneak it in. I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to play with reverse cards. And okay, cool. Tony's asking about reversals too. So I know when I had a look, when I read these 3 reversals, I probably went to more of the negative, and I went to blockages. So that's quite a typical way of reading a reverse card, that it's blocked energy. But another couple of ways, and Georgette, I'd really recommend just play with these different methods and see how they fit on for size, and then decide, well, did I like it or I didn't like it? Will I continue reversals or not? So we've got blocked energy. Another one I really like is the reversal can be a sign that the energy is turned inward. Now this plays out in a few ways. So if we know, say, the Queen of Wands as, feeling worthy, it's the confidence and the assertiveness, right? Well, reversed, it might be about more self-worth. So how do we express our feelings of worthiness within ourselves? How does it happen internally? Do you see that? So that's kind of the difference between the upright is the external expression of that energy, and then the reversal is the internal expression of that energy of the card. Let's give you another example. Oh, well, here's another self-worth one, really. So 9 of Pentacles is kind of like the I am worthy. And reverse, yes, like you could interpret it as I don't feel worthy, or it could be about just the general theme of self-worth. What have we got? Even the moon. So kind of like subconscious influences. So that's, in the upright, and then reversed is like even more that whole subconscious stuff is even more internal. And in fact, I would say that would be a lot about like unconscious awareness, unconscious unawareness. You know what I mean? So, stuff happening at a really deep level that you might not even be aware of. So I find that a really helpful way of doing reversals, that internal expression. And whether that's, it's something that you're thinking about privately, you're not actually expressing it, something that you're keeping within yourself, or something that is purely about yourself and not about other people or stuff going on around you. So have a play with that, see how that fits for you. And of course, there is a masterclass on reversed tarot cards. And Kim, if you wouldn't mind just sharing that link as well. So I get into a lot more detail about reversed cards in my latest masterclass. And yeah, what I've noticed is the folks who have come to that masterclass, they've come in going, well, I don't know about reversals, but I'll keep an open mind. And after the masterclass, they're like, whoa, they're using reversals like, nonstop. So that might be something that would help as well. All right, let's see. Super. Go, Kim. I'm just going to jump up. Nadine, I will come back to your question, but while I'm on the reversals. So Tony, I think I've touched a bit on reversals. Done. And Susan says, since you pulled 3 reverse cards, what are your thoughts on a Celtic cross spread coming up predominantly reverse, like 8 out of 10? Yeah, awesome question. So this happens a lot when pretty much the majority of your reading, whether it's a Celtic cross or something else, the majority of your reading is reverse cards. Now, my instant feeling with that, my instant one, and I'll walk through some alternatives. The instant one is that, the situation that you've asked about is a lot about you and your inner work versus what's going on around you. So if you were asking about career and most of the cards were reversed, well, I would be talking about getting your mindset right before you go out and try and find a job or change your career path or, negotiate with other people. It's about your internal process, your thoughts, your beliefs, self-talk, all that kind of stuff. So that's really important. If it was in a relationship spread and you had mostly reverse cards, then my natural reaction to that would be, this is about you in the relationship versus the dynamic of the relationship. And again, perhaps it's about your mindset in the relationship versus how you and the other person are interacting. An alternative way is, again, to flip more back to that, the blockages. So if the whole reading, majority of the reading was reversed, you might interpret as, well, there's a lot of blocked energy here, or things are a little bit awkward or just not working out. That's kind of probably my secondary place that I go. I really like playing in that space of internal energy. Wonderful. So let's see. Nadine says, what's the best spread for beginners when reading for others? I think just keep it simple. Stick to like 1 card, 2 cards, or 3 cards. I will be doing a podcast soon. All those good podcasts ready to come out. There's a whole podcast on 3 card spreads. So the 3 card spreads that I love. And I think you're going to find that maybe episode 13, if I remember correctly, and that will be later in Feb. But basically, you can do a really simple reading. So where you just draw 2 cards. So what might be a question? I'm thinking about moving to, thinking about moving to London, and should I go? I've just accidentally flipped away. Okay, that's all good. And so you might just ask that. You're not going to have like a big past, present, well, that's not big, but you might not have past, present, future. You might not go Celtic cross, whatever. Just go, okay, what do I need to know about moving to London? Just draw 2 cards, super easy. Oh, okay, well, it might not be as successful as I think it will be. And emotionally, it kind of just doesn't quite feel right. I'd be asking, does it actually feel in resonance with what you want to achieve in life? There you go, nice and easy. Easy reading. So if you're a beginner, just start small, 1 or 2 cards will often give you the question. And whilst I did that in about 10 seconds, you could go into even a lot more detail in just those 2 cards. It'll just give you a lot more clarity as you're looking at the cards. Whereas a big reading, you can find yourself completely lost in all of those different cards. Okie doke. So, Tara asks, what are some of your thoughts on the essential differences between face-to-face and email tarot readings? Do you have a preference? Good question. Another good question, yeah. Okay, so I do primarily email readings. Now, the reason why I do email readings is because I have a family, I have a big business, I have, a team of staff as well. I've got a lot going on. And so for me, doing email readings is probably more about the practicality of it for me, because it means I can schedule it when I want versus when my client might, want the reading. I can be a little bit more flexible. So if I think that I'm going to do it at 10 in the morning and something comes up, I can do it at 3 in the afternoon and it's no problem. I think on more of like a tarot reader practice level, I quite like email readings because it gives me the space to really think through the cards, and I can type pretty fast, so I can do a bit of the stream of consciousness writing as I'm typing, but it just gives me a bit of breathing space to really just ponder on the cards without feeling like that pressure of having to talk. That said, I've done quite a few face-to-face readings as well. And what I really enjoy about the face-to-face is that energy exchange, and, that you can really pick up on the energy and you can have more of a conversation about the tarot cards. It's more like sitting down and having a cup of tea with someone and working through their situation with the tarot cards as your guide. So look, both of them have pros and cons. I guess the con with the face-to-face is that, yes, you do have to schedule it. You need a location for it. And again, you're limited to the people that are within your immediate geographical location. So I like to think global, and I really like to be able to scale my reach. And that's why I love the internet, because I can reach people from all across the world. And that's what you can do with email tarot readings as well. Wonderful. Oh, good. Oh, now I'm just, sorry, Georgette, I'm just seeing your comment now. You're going to give those reversals a go. Good on you. Heather asks, how do you understand a card that comes up in just about every single reading for yourself? And you keep getting the 9 of Pentacles. Okay. Well, to me, these are like your stalker cards, right? They're going to stalk you until you pay attention. So if you're getting the 9 of Pentacles, and if you're getting any card, so here's how you can connect in with what is this card trying to tell me, right? If you don't quite get it at sort of a conscious level, then these are a couple of things you can do to try and get it at a subconscious level and understand, what are we trying to tell me? So let's say you got the 9 of Pentacles. One thing to do is to free write. Oh man, let's see if I can find it again. I'm just going to choose another card just because it's quick and easy. So let's say your 9 of Pentacles is actually the Page of Wands. So one way is to do free writing. So you take your card out and you just gaze at it for a couple of minutes. And all you're doing is it's like you're just drinking in that imagery. You're not thinking about oh man, what is the Page of Wands in this book? That meant that. Not doing that at all. It's just about drinking in that image and feeling and sensing the energy in that card. Then you're going to set your timer for 10 minutes. You're going to have a piece of paper, a bit of a pen, and you're just going to write anything that comes to mind about that card. And I often find it helps to start by describing what you see in the card, Okay, well, okay, there's a man, he's got a stick, it's got some growth in it. And then like your brain might start going, growth. Well, it's kind of like something spurting and starting. Oh, and have a look at that landscape there. You know, that's pretty barren landscape, but even then there's some like growth happening here. And you might start to, as you're writing nonstop, you start to pick up some intuitive elements of that card. And like literally, you need to keep writing without stopping. And if you run out of things to write, you just write, I don't know what to write, until your brain kicks in and you'll find something new in the card. So you may, that once you finish that process, come back to what you've written and maybe highlight 2 or 3 things in what you've written that resonate for you, that give you additional insight. So that's one way, the free writing. Another way is just to meditate with the card. So again, you gaze at the card and then you close your eyes, bring yourself into a relaxed state, and then you step into that card and you become the Page of Wands and you start to explore, you know, yourself like holding the stick. Oh, what does that feel like? Oh, and then you look around you, like you see all this barren landscape. You're like, oh, okay, how am I experiencing this? And you might even have a conversation with the Page of Wands, or in your case, the Lady and the Nine of Pentacles, and say, what message do you have for me? What do you want to share with me? And so that can be a really interesting way to get more into your subconscious connection with that card. So those are 2 things that you could do to really explore a card on a deeper level. There are a few others, but that'll do for now. You have your work cut out for you. Just really open your mind to get into the essence of that card. And, you know, don't be surprised if you discover things that you didn't expect from the card. So things that go beyond what you might read in a book, because this is about your intuition wanting to connect with the imagery of the card. Yeah. All right, let's see. Ooh. Okay, do you know what? So we've got 5 questions here. I'm going to ask if we can just pause on any new questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to answer these 5 questions. Then I want to share a little bit more about how you can continue to grow your skills as a tarot reader, or, you know, how you can really connect with the tarot cards. And then I know that we're here for an hour, but I'm happy to stay on the webinar as long as it takes, you know, to answer your questions. So for now, no new questions. I'm going to answer what we've got here. And yeah, we will get there. And again, like I said at the start of the webinar, make sure you stick with me to the end of the webinar, because I do have something really special for you. But we will get to that. All right. So Marianela from Lima says, how can we clean our energy before a reading to a negatively charged person? Oh, yep, good idea. Okay, so you encounter that client, you're like, oh, this person's like, you know, they're wired, or, you know, they're grumpy about something. You're like, I don't want to get my energy sort of sucked out of me. Really important. One thing is just to do a very simple cleanse, which is, you know, a few deep breaths, and just like every time you're just letting go. Center yourself by grounding yourself into the earth, connecting with your universal energy and managing that white energy, white light coming down through you and meeting up with the earth energy within you. Another thing, particularly if you sense that someone's just going to, just get to you, is surround yourself in white light. Almost see yourself as a bubble. And in the same way, you can apply that light to that person. You can shower them in white universal light or pink light if you feel that they need some love. And you can almost visualize your connection together before you go into that reading and see it as a very open transfer of energy, and you being able to give to that person what they really need, and then being able to receive it as well. And then when you finish the reading, make sure you can do a visualization to imagine yourselves as now becoming separate. So you sort of created this energy bubble around you both, and then you can imagine you separating, create the energy bubbles around you separately, and imagine yourself turning your back to that person and then walking away. So it's just a good way of saying, we're done, and you can even imagine like handing back the energy that they've given you, handing it back and wishing them on their journey well with love. Okay, beautiful. Georgette asks, what are the guidelines for phrasing a question? Good question. I'm doing another podcast episode on this one too. So a couple of quick things. When you're phrasing a question, I recommend, because I don't like the yes/no questions so much, avoid closed-ended questions and go for open-ended questions. So, for example, instead of asking like, will I, should I, is this happening, that kind of stuff, then think more about questions that are like, what do I need to know, or what's happening here, and why, or how as well. That will give you more space to really explore the cards, and will give you, yes, that opportunity to really connect in with the essence of the reading and the question. Now, let me just think. The other one is to really try and get into the heart of the question. So someone might ask you, like, will I get back with my ex? But what you really want to find out is, like, what is it that you really want here? And what are we really asking here? Are we asking actually how you can heal from this relationship so you can move on? Or are you asking what actions can you take to get back together? So it can often help to have a bit of a conversation about the question at hand before going on with the tarot reading. And that way you're making sure that you are connecting with the actual question that they have really in their mind and in their heart. So I hope that helps. Those are a couple of tips, and of course you'll find more in the podcast when it gets released. Okay, and Georgette also asked, what's the best price to charge for an email reading? Well, that's like, how long is a piece of string? And I can't even give like an hourly rate because it's so different. What I do recommend is, if you are just starting out, like if you're just starting to charge money for a reading, you don't want to have like super high prices because you're still building your experience, but you don't want to have low, like super low prices either. So when I started reading tarot professionally, I charged like $10 for a reading. And that was a reading that would take an hour for me to do. So clearly I didn't follow my own advice. But if I could go back in time, I would probably be charging like maybe $50 for a reading that might take me 45 minutes or an hour. You want to charge a price that isn't too low, because otherwise people won't necessarily value what you have to offer. And it also shows that you don't really value your own services. So try and find at least like a middle ground. The other thing is, don't get too hung up on what other people are charging. They all have their own stories around money, and you have yours, and you need to tune into what resonates most with you. Now, because you're a tarot reader, pull out your cards and go, okay, well, is it $50 an hour? Well, you got the 7 of Wands, let's say. So that might be a sign, well, maybe I'll get a lot of demand and I probably won't feel good about $50 an hour. Okay, well, I wonder if it's like $60 an hour. Oh, that feels pretty good, yeah. And then you might be like, well, let's just see. Let's try $100 an hour. What might happen with 100? Oh, maybe that's when I'm a bit more in my mastery. You know, that could be what I'm working towards. So use your tarot cards to help you decide as well. That can be a fun way. All right. Shanti's asking, how do you tell a story with a spread? Well, easy. So I'm thinking of even just like past, present, future. It's kind of like just having a storybook. Let's just do a quick example. So let's say it was career, and in the past you had to make some decisions about your direction and which way you want to move forward. But even though you had firm decision in the past and you were exhibiting your strength and willpower, you're now experiencing some internal conflict. So I wonder what's changed between here and there. Oh man, and this is when you could start drawing another card, because you're like, I wonder what's changed. Well, maybe down here What's changed is that your mindset around money has become more of a poverty mindset or a mindset of lack. So you can actually start to build up a bit of a story even just by these cards. And it's almost as if one card could lead into the next card. So I've gone a little bit off track here, but this could be a really fun way of doing it. Let's go back to our past, present, future. So we've got, in the past, you were pretty, resolute about your career, but now you're feeling some internal conflict. In the future, you might return back to, a career that gave you more stability. So maybe it's like you went out on your own. You thought you were making the right decision by starting your own business, but now you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I've made the right decision. And so now you're returning back, because we can see him facing the other way, sort of back into the past. He might be going back to something that felt more secure and so on. So that's an example of how you might tell the story in the cards. Now, obviously, it comes easy to me because I've done this for so many years. So if you're sitting there going, oh, she makes it look too easy, all you need to do is practice, and practice by taking 2 cards from your deck and going, what's the story here? What's the combined message? All right, next 2 cards, what is it? Okay, easy, next 2 cards. And you'll start to really build up your storytelling muscle that way. And of course, if you want a bit more practice, I'm going to show you how you can do that soon. But you can also jump over to facebook.com/Biddy Tarot. And every week we have a new card combination that you can do some practice with and share your different interpretations of those pairs. Yeah. All right, and we've got one more with Gloria, who asks, when you're doing a phone reading, how do you call in their energy? Well, I'm just thinking if I've even ever done a phone reading. I don't think I have. So I'm probably not the best person. I'm not the expert in this for this question, but let me see if I can help answer it. So I think like with a phone, you're hearing their voice. I think it's kind of like you do. Like I get energy off an email. Like I get the energy off the words and how they've phrased things and their picture that they've included. So I think when you're hearing a voice, you pick up even more of that energy as well, because you're hearing the pace at which they're speaking. You're hearing their ups and downs in their voice and so on. So I would even just set the intention before doing a phone reading that you are fully in tune with that person's energy, that you are open to receive their energy and hear their energy and experience their energy for the reading. And simply by setting that intention, you will start to experience it. So I hope that helps. Just thinking if there's anything else that might be helpful. Look, the other thing that's just coming up for me now is, please don't be afraid to ask questions during a tarot reading. Like, don't feel like you have to cold read someone. You can, if you're skilled at doing that, awesome, go for it. But I know for many people that can be a bit daunting. So don't be afraid to ask some questions. So if you're struggling to connect with their energy on the phone, just ask some questions like, okay, well, what's on your mind right now? Relationships. Okay, you're in a relationship right now? No. You're like, okay, well, maybe we'll focus the reading on finding a relationship. Would you like to find a relationship? Yes. So you're like, don't be afraid to ask, because then you can help your client a lot more with the tarot cards instead of trying to guess. It's kind of like going to the doctor and going, I'm sick, you figure it out. And they spend a whole hour trying to diagnose your whole body when you're like, yeah, it's my elbow. Duh, how could you not know that? It's all a bit ridiculous. Okay, so yeah, I hope that helps, Gloria. All right, now I promised you at the start of today's webinar that I would show you how you can learn more about how to read the tarot cards and how you can continue your skills, continue to build your skills as a tarot reader. And let me just jump on over. There we go, beautiful. So some of you might have already been a part of this, and in fact, I think we've had we're almost close to 500 students have been part of our TF1 Master the Tarot Card Meanings program. Now, this is an online training program that's designed for aspiring tarot readers, just like yourselves, to really get into the tarot cards in a way that goes way beyond just reading something in a book. Master the Tarot Card Meanings is all about getting into the intuitive messages within the cards and going beyond simply like memorizing the cards. So when you take this program with me, it's a 7-module program, and over those 7 modules, I don't necessarily get you to memorize the 78 tarot cards and, you know, commit that to your memory, because I've been there, I've done that, it's boring, and I often just forget what the cards mean. What I do is I show you how to make that intuitive connection with the tarot cards so that you're not so much having to remember specific meanings, but you're connecting in with the cards. And I'm also teaching you techniques to interpret any card instead of having to, you know, learn 78 cards. So you get, you know, a handful of techniques instead of having to remember 78 actual tarot card meanings. And look, we cover things like the minor arcana, the systems that sit behind the minor arcana that actually make these 40 cards so much easier to understand and interpret. I give you some tips around, you know, keywords. We actually go through the cards. So in the cups, pentacles, swords, and wands. I show you how symbolism and stories work within the cards, and how that again helps you create that intuitive connection with the tarot. We go through court cards, and I also talk about, you know, when you find like a bad card in a good position in a tarot reading and vice versa, and how you can really interpret the cards and look at their light and shade in the tarot cards. We also go through each of the major arcana, and the way that I walk you through the majors is we do it as the Fool's Journey. And we experience the major arcana in such a special and unique way through meditation, and also through kind of like their archetypes and their core essence as the Fool experiences each of the major arcana cards. So this is something that you just don't really get when you're reading a tarot book, but you will get that full experience when you take TF1 Master the Tarot Card Meanings. And of course, in that last module, I go through how we do tarot card combinations. So you get much better at telling the story and reading for flow in the cards. And by the end of the course, you'll know how to do a 2-card reading. Many people can go on and do bigger readings than that, of course, but I want to give you something that you can walk away with easily. So when you sign up for the TF1, you get access to a student learning hub, which you can see there, and you get access to the training modules. And you'll see recorded webinars. So a little bit like this, but a little bit different, and without all the technical difficulties that we had. But there's a whole series of training webinars for each module. And, you know, these are 90-minute webinars. So I go into a lot of depth and detail within the webinars. You also get a workbook to really embed what you learn in the classes. And, you know, there's a bunch of bonuses for each module as well. So if this sounds of interest and you haven't already been part of TF1, then I invite you to head on over to biddytarot.com/TF1 to check it out. You get all the information about the program on that page. And as a special, this is where, like, when you go to that page, you'll see this. This is where you can enroll into the program, and then you can fill out the order form and pay with credit card, and you get instant access into the program. So as soon as you enroll and pay, you get straight into the program, and you can start learning like today, which is, you know, awesome, because you can get things rolling super fast. Now, because I love people who take action quickly, I have got a very special offer for you, and it's really only available to those who are here on the live webinar, because it's only available within the next hour. So if you enroll in the TF1 program within the next 60 minutes, I'm going to give you free my tarot card flip book. Now, this flip book is pretty cool. It's all of the keywords that you need for each tarot card, all in a very handy PDF document. And the folks who have already been accessing this ebook love it because it just makes things so much easier, just to have everything in the one place, and not big detailed meanings, but just the quick keywords as a quick refresher. And that's typically valued at $39. But for you, if you sign up to TF1 in the next hour, you get that absolutely free. Oh, end of show. That means back to me. So there we go, beautiful. So I would love for you to join TF1, and you'll be joining almost 500 students who've already been through that program and are seeing huge results in the way that they are learning to read the tarot cards. I've just seen some great things, like I remember we had Jill from Australia, and she came into the course, and I think she just knew how to read the full card. She knew one card, and within 6 weeks of doing the course, she was reading for her friend every single week, and her friend was just getting so much value and insight from it. It was so lovely to see. And we've also had students who've gone on to do tarot reading parties and become professional readers. So like, the possibilities are endless, whether it's just reading tarot for yourself or reading for other people. And again, if it's just for the love of it, or if it's actually as a potential career, lots of opportunities. So I hope that you'll join the program, and you'll find it at biddytarot.com/TF1. All right, great. Well, I know that we're a little bit over time now, so I want to honor your time. If you need to leave, please feel free to go. That's okay. I won't be upset. And if you do need to leave now, I want to say a massive thank you for being here. I really, really do appreciate all of your time and energy, and particularly as we had a few technical hiccups at the start. So thank you for your patience. And again, thank you for being such an awesome part of the Biddy Tarot community. We're going to have so many awesome things coming up in 2016. I can't wait to share them all with you. So things like the podcast in January, and we will be building up a really big and amazing Biddy Tarot community that you can be a part of, where you can connect with other tarot readers. You'll have calls like this with me every month, and there's going to be so much more. I can't wait. So we've got a really exciting year coming up, and I hope that you also have a really exciting year as well. Now, where will you find the podcast? Make sure that you've signed up on our newsletter, and you will definitely hear about them through the newsletter. And they will be on iTunes. So from January 12th, you'll be able to find the Biddy Tarot podcast on iTunes. So I'm going to stick around because I know that some of you might have a couple of questions that we didn't get to answer. So like I said at the start, I'm here to answer all of your questions. So if you want to ask, please ask away. I'm right here. Wonderful. Oh, yay, Sigrun saying, looking forward to 2016, the big tarot year. Yay. Every year's a big tarot year. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, yeah, so if you have questions, then please feel free to ask. I'm happy to stick around until I've helped you and being able to give you advice and value and all those good things. Otherwise, if you need to head off, then wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Kat says, good question. If you were never an intuitive person, can you still learn tarot? Oh my goodness. Okay, so, well, number one, I debate whether, you're never an intuitive person. I think we're all intuitive. We just make a choice about whether we listen to it or not. That's one thing. But here's the thing, right? So my husband, he's the graphic designer for Biddy Tarot, so he does all the design. So he kind of gets what things are like, and he's got me for a wife. But pretty much he knows nothing about tarot. And the other night I said, why don't you try a tarot reading for yourself? I'll give you a couple of quick tips and techniques, and I bet you'll be reading those cards in no time, right? And this is all stuff that I teach in TF1 in the online training program. And it's like, oh, okay. So I gave him the cards, gave him a few tips, and then he did a 3-card reading. And I'm like, okay, what do you see in these cards? What does it mean? Oh, well, maybe this means that, and that means that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, perfect. You know, it wasn't like the most in-depth reading ever, but he actually got to the core essence of each card and created a reading. So if you're asking, like, can a non-intuitive person read tarot? Hell yeah. I just seen it happen. Quite amazing. And like, really, that comes down to learning the right techniques that will help you to read those tarot cards. Because if you're into just like memorizing all of the 78 meanings, it takes you forever, and you just don't get that personal intuitive connection with the cards. But if you learn the right techniques so that you can pick up any card and like read it, then perfect. Nadine, how long did it take for you to become a confident tarot reader? Confidence is a mindset. It totally is. Yeah, goodness. It's like, how do you really know? Because there's part of you that has to make the assessment that you are confident. And even then, like even now, I still have doubts every now and then. I'm like, oh, am I good enough? Or particularly if you see someone else doing a reading, like, wow, that was pretty amazing. Am I that good? So I think, you know, you're never 100% confident. That's number one. And I think confidence builds up over time. And I think you need to allow the space for you to be confident. So for me, I don't know, probably a good few years. And that was with lots and lots of practice. I still felt good while I was reading the cards, but maybe not like super, super confident. And it really wasn't until like I was doing high volumes of readings and I felt, you know, probably even once I was starting to teach as well, it gave me a bit of extra confidence that I knew what I was talking about. Yeah, so I hope that it helps. Let's see. Susan asks, as a beginner, do you suggest sticking with one deck? Yes, I think so. Do you know, it's like I've been reading now, I think it's for 18 years. So yeah, since I was 18. Yeah, that's right. I've been reading for 18 years, and it's probably only in the last year that I've started using other decks. Until then, it was like always these ones. Okay, so my other favorite deck now is the Gaian Tarot. Love it. And just recently, I got the Chrysalis Tarot, which I really like. I think it's you know, just nice imagery. Quite like working with that one. And of course, I am an uber fan of Alana Fairchild, and so my team will recognize this. So I just gave this to my team for Christmas because, yeah, I love this deck, and I think, you know, it's a good one. But so, okay, so I've digressed a little bit and got carried away. But yes, I think if you are just starting out, I would recommend to start with one deck to really build up your confidence. And when you feel really good about that one deck, then you can start branching out. Yeah, good. Nikki says, do you charge your decks? And if so, how? Okay, so I know that I have like a blog post or two on how to cleanse and clear your deck. And I wonder, I'll bring that up just in case Kim's like, oh, I don't know where that is. Let me see. I would send you. So there's a link for how to clear and cleanse your deck. Now, I have to be honest, I don't do these things. Just had a little freeze. I don't really do it. The way that I like to just charge a deck and get into it is to just shuffle. I just start shuffling. That's it. But you can, you know, you can put crystals on your deck. You could give it a moon bath. You know, you could smudge it with a sage stick, all those kinds of things. It's really what feels right to you and what resonates with you. But personally, yeah, I just shuffle them and I just, you know, store them. Actually, I've got a nice little cupboard that's got some incense in it at the moment, and it makes my cards smell like all mystical and gorgeous. So, yeah, do what resonates with you, what feels right for you. All right. Well, that looks like it was the last question. I'm going to give you one last chance. If you do have a question that you haven't asked and would like to ask, now's your final chance. But otherwise, I can feel my tummy grumbling. So it's, what time is 12:15 here in Melbourne today, and it's Wednesday. So it's coming up to lunchtime. My tummy's telling me it's ready for some lunch. Brilliant. Well, I think we might be done with our questions. So again, I want to say a big, big thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience and perseverance. Oh, am I doing a podcast? I certainly am. January 12, baby. Well, so yes, so you will find the podcast will be on iTunes, Biddy Tarot Podcast, and I will be announcing it most definitely through the newsletter and on social media. Hopefully you will not miss it. There's a couple extra questions. I'll stick around. Tummy can wait. Rochelle asks, do you add incense to your space before a reading? No, not generally. So I very rarely burn incense, and that's only because it just makes me like really wheezy. I really like it. I love the smell, but yeah, I just get a bit wheezy, maybe asthmatic. So that doesn't work for me. And actually it's a good point, because if you're reading for clients and you've burnt incense, not everyone likes incense or responds well to it. So you might just want to test that one out before going nuts on the incense before a reading. How do I deal with difficult clients? Well, yeah, it's a big question. Actually, I've got a good post on this one too. Come on, let me see if I can pull it up. Basically, there's a couple of different ways to avoid difficult clients altogether. And one of those is to make sure that in your marketing material, you're very clear about who you do your best work with and who you don't. So then you will almost be filtering out those difficult clients before you even start the reading. And that's really important. If somehow they slip through and you have a difficult client who, maybe isn't open to the reading, you can try to a point to try and, bring them back on board, ask questions, try and understand where they're coming from and so on. But there may be a point at which you say, this isn't working, and, I'm not able to do my best job right now because, I just don't feel like you're, in the reading. I suppose that's not quite the way to word it, but, it's like, I feel like I can't do my best here. And so let's just agree to end the reading because I'm not sure you're getting value out of it. And, I really don't want you to feel like you're not getting value from this. So I would actually be quite brave and just stop the reading. But I've shared a link there. That's going to give you a little bit more information about those more specific types of difficult clients, like the Debbie Downer style and, it's not right, or like you're the psychic, you tell me, all that kind of silly stuff. So I hope that helps. All righty, I think we're done. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. If for some reason I've missed your question, you can jump onto facebook.com/Biddy Tarot and ask it over there, because I do check that nearly every day and I do respond personally. So feel free to ask over there if you want to ask something. All right, I'm going to say a massive thank you once again. And again, thank you for being part of this Biddy Tarot community. And I really do appreciate all of your energy and your enthusiasm. And, from here on, I just hope you have such wonderful fun and insight with your tarot cards. Your tarot cards will help you just unlock so much potential in your life. You probably know it already because you're here and you're investing in your tarot. But just know that those cards, are just helping you in so many ways, and are no doubt helping many other people as well. So tarot on, tarot on. All right, I'm going to say goodbye and big thank you. Bye.